Football done right. What's Joe Douglas going to do right now? Because he's got a situation, probably the worst one that any GM would have to face, which is you build all your hopes and dreams around Rodgers. It lasts 4 snaps. Can they really just roll here with Zach Wilson, or do you think he's working the phones every hour of the day?
No, I think he's got to roll with Zach Wilson. Look, if there were 32 good quarterbacks in the league and 32 backups, we wouldn't have this sense of urgency. It's hard to find them. It's a great quarterback. He drafted a guy the 2nd pick overall in the draft, that won some games for him last year. What they have to do is rally the organization. They were an Aaron Rodgers team. 4 plays into their season, it went away. What they have to do is unify the team. And as the leader of the team, Saleh's got to be able to go to his defensive staff and his defensive players and say, look, we're find ways to win games like we did on Monday night. With our special teams, our defense will get turnovers. And then he's got to get Nathaniel Hackett to run an offense that is not Aaron Rodgers' offense. It's offense that will keep Zach Wilson from hurting us. And it's doable. I mean, I think it's really doable. I don't think it's that hard. I think they can do it, but I think they've got to be able to stop the talk about bringing somebody in. When Brady got hurt in 2007, the Patriots, unbeknownst to that, had already scheduled 2 workouts on the Monday before the game. They already had 2 workouts scheduled. And they canceled those workouts to send a message to the coaching staff, to the players, that they believed in Matt Castle. And I think that's what they have to do. I think they got to believe in Zach Wilson. Look, what's the alternative? You're going to bring Colt McCoy in. He's not going to stay healthy, right? It's hard. Who's out there that you're going to get? This Brady talk is ridiculous.
Mike, we're both listeners to the podcast, so I think we know your views on Nathaniel Hackett. But there's sort of a storyline. There's a storyline out there that Hackett's offense is pretty complicated, and that makes it harder to bring somebody in. We were saying, well, can he simplify to some extent? And is Nathaniel Hackett the guy for this assignment right now?
Well, I don't think his run's the West Coast offense. And so, you want Blake Bortles back? He could probably know it in about 2 minutes. He had him in Jacksonville. You want to bring him back? Look, that's what he has to do. The scene in Apollo 13? To me, this is where the Jets are perfectly. In Apollo 13, when all those astronauts are stuck up in space and they can't get back, they take a box and they load this box into a conference room and they dump it on a table and they say, we got to take this, turn it into that using nothing but this. That's the Jets. That's Joe Douglas. That's what he has to do. And Nathaniel Hackett has to do the same thing. He's got to come up with an offense. Forget about it being Nathaniel Hackett's offense. This has got to be the right offense for the Jets to win. All this nonsense about, we got great stats and, the analytical community loves what we're doing. If you don't win, what is it? I mean, everybody loves the Chargers. They haven't forced a punt in 6 quarters. Right? I mean, come on.
Michael Lombardi is joining us, got a new book out, Football Done Right, setting the record straight on the coaches, players, and the history of the NFL. Michael, I mean, if you're going to basically have to make a new offense for Zach Wilson, why wouldn't you be scouring someone else's roster to try to get at least an upgrade from Wilson? I mean, it feels to me a bit like ego that they even made Zach Wilson the backup to Aaron Rodgers. No one thought the kid could play, and you were going to go into the season with a 40-year-old quarterback. They probably should have done what San Francisco did, which is even though Trey Lance was taken 3rd overall, they brought Sam Darnold in at least as a buffer, and the Jets didn't do that.
Right. Well, I think they're not going to change the offense. They're going to run the offense that they have that fits Zach Wilson. There's parts of that West Coast offense that Nathaniel learned from his father, Paul, through time that they're going to run. And they're going to pick out the system and the plays and the concepts that Wilson runs effectively. So they're not changing the offense for him. So but I agree with you. I worry more. Look, Zach can throw it. He's got a great arm. But I worry about him handling the pressure. I worry about, is it too big for him? I worry about, can he go into Dallas and all those people and play well? And then it's not playing well one game. It's playing well every game. That's the hard thing. And I'm not in that building, but my sense of it is when he walked on that field, just looking at him, I didn't get the sense that he thought he was ever going to play. And he did not look like, to me, confident that he was ever going to play. Now, he's had a week to prepare, but so is Dan Quinn down in Dallas. So when you take over like that, right, you kind of catch the defense by surprise a little bit because they don't know quite what you're going to do. Dan Quinn now knows what they'll do with him. He knows it'll be a lot of screens. He knows it'll be a lot of easy throws to make it more comfortable for Zach, and Zach's going to have to prove he can play well.
So, Mike, your new book, Football Done Right, I know you started out with Bill Walsh. Who did you have more of in the book, Bill Walsh or Bill Belichick? Because I was thinking about, we're talking a lot about offensive systems. It seems to me Bill Walsh is, I know Paul Brown, but Bill Walsh really invented a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
What is so which coach do you reference more?
I think I reference Paul Brown more because without Paul Brown, I don't think there would be coaches. I mean, I was with Coach Walsh, and we did a lot of things that he learned from Paul. Now, the thing about Walsh that made him so unique and so incredible was he was truly an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur isn't somebody who comes up with an idea. An entrepreneur is somebody who takes an existing idea and makes it better. That's what Walsh was able to do, and that's where the West Coast offense came from. But pretty much the infrastructure of what we did under Walsh, he learned from Paul Brown. And all these coaches, Saleh, all these guys that deposit their checks, we wouldn't have a profession of coaches if it wasn't for Paul Brown. I find it hard to believe that the Coach of the Year award isn't named after Paul Brown. I mean, he started it. He's the infrastructure. He's the Bill Gates of the NFL. You talk about scouting, you talk about the 40 time, you talk about game planning, you talk about guys in the press box, you talk about headsets. It all came from Paul. We should honor that. We should remember that in the league. It's really important that people study this because, look, the Eagles run a six-back offense. That's a single wing offense. When I used to get on the team bus with the 49ers, I had to sit behind Coach Walsh. And when I sat behind him, he would be doodling Clark Shaughnessy plays. Joe Burrow just signed for $55 million a year. Clark Shaughnessy is the guy that made the quarterback position popular with the T formation. If it wasn't for Clark Shaughnessy, we may not have quarterbacks yet. Clark can't even get a sniff in the Hall of Fame.
Mike, when you look around the NFL landscape today, who's the innovator? Who's the guy that in 20 years from now you're going to be writing about? A young coach, not Belichick.
Well, I think Kyle really innovates. I think he's done a really good job of taking his dad's system and modifying it to tailor it. And then when you innovate, when you get new pieces, right? You innovate like with McCaffrey. Now we have a positionless offense. I think Arthur Smith does a really good job running the ball in Atlanta. I mean, he's very creative. He finds a way to get that half a man advantage in the run game. And he's got a lot of players that he can interchange. And he really doesn't have a tight end that he can run behind because Pitts, for whether the media calls him a tight end, that's wonderful, but he's not a tight end. He don't block anybody. So, that's kind of what he's able to do. And, obviously McVay took his spin on it. I think those guys are really good at what they're doing. McDaniels, when you watch his offense, when it's a 7-on-7 game in Miami like it was out in Los Angeles, that offense is hard to stop. Now, it's not all the time that way when they play against the better defenses.
Michael Lombardi joining us, former NFL GM, of course, author of the new book, Football Done Right, setting the record straight on the coaches, players, and history of the NFL. Mike, I want to get your thoughts on Justin Fields. Can he ever become a great quarterback?
I laugh. I try to lower the expectations on Justin Fields. I think it's really unfair to the kid, that we have people out there talking about him being an MVP candidate. Like, can we just complete some passes down the field? I went to look at quarterback ratings based on the analytics, and I must have missed it. I got to go to Pearl Vision Center, but they had Jordan Love, and Justin Fields graded the same after that game. I watched that tape. I watched it here on my computer. I mean, that's not even close, right? Justin Fields has got to get a rhythm to his game. He's got to get some timing. They got to find what he does well. He's not going to be a rhythm thrower. He's going to be a high-low reader, and he's got to run the ball. He's a six-back offense runner, and he's got to become more accurate. One of the criticisms coming out of college was his release and the way he changed in terms of when the game speeds up. He doesn't throw the ball consistently with accuracy, and that's really important. I write about it in the book. Brett Favre once said, all quarterbacks can throw the ball through the door. Good ones can hit the doorknob. The great ones throw it through the keyhole. Justin's not throwing it through the keyhole, and that's what it's going to be great.
Mike, obviously a lot of overreactions after week one. Is it an overreaction, all the hype around the Dallas Cowboys defense, or, is that the rain and the Giants playing poorly, or should we expect them to keep this going?
I think look, they're going to be a good team. We know this, but they're not going to have an easy time like they did against the Giants. The Giants, I thought, in my opinion, the Giants forgot who they are. What made the Giants successful last year was slow the game down, run the football, play action, don't let Daniel Jones hurt us, but they gave him $40 million and they wanted to show that they're a different team. I don't think that's who they are, whether they paid Daniel $40 million or paid him $4 million. I think they have to play it close to the vest. They have to play from in front. They've got to play from in front, because if they get from behind, all of a sudden Evan Neal, their right tackle, gets exposed. They lose Thomas. Now that offensive line gets exposed. One of the things we have to do, and as head coaches have to do, and personnel, we have to understand who we are as a team. That's the shift that's going to happen in Florham Park. We were this team, now we've got to become this team. And I think the Giants kind of got caught up a little bit in trying to become something different than they are. They need to be what they were last year. Get the game in the fourth quarter, find a way to win it, make plays.
On that end, Michael Lombardi is joining us. Do you think the Ravens' offense looked that much different in week one?
I don't think so at all, Maggie. I've been saying this for a while. I mean, I know the media has made a big deal out of Todd Monken coming in there. Lamar Jackson, to me, is an under-center quarterback. I think he's better at under-center. I think he's a play-action pass quarterback. I think the only play in football that the quarterback blocks somebody on is bootlegs and naked. And if he runs a bootlegger or naked, somebody's going with him on every play. And he also is a very good thrower in the middle of the field, from the numbers to the numbers. His best season, his MVP season, he had Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews. He's got to control the middle of the field. I did not see a different offense. I thought their timing was off. I know they signed Odell, and I know that should just assure them a Super Bowl. But the reality of it is I didn't see that.
Mike, James Harden's still a Sixer. We don't have time to talk about it. We got a break in a second.
Yeah, no.
But
you're a Sixer fan too. You're a Sixer fan.
It's bad.
Don't run away on me now.
I'm ready to run away. Are you staying the course here?
No, I don't know if I could do it. I don't have it in me. I have to go to rehab again. I've been to rehab 18 times over the Sixers. I was at a Lionel Richie concert the other day in Wells Fargo, and I looked up there and I saw the banner from the '82, and I said, in my lifetime, there's never going to be another banner up here. I'm going to go with Spoelstra and the Heat, I think, at some point.
Mike, I thought you'd love the 76ers. They've got 100 coaches on the staff. That's your thing. They've got enough coaches for everybody.
I love that, Maggie. When have they ever dedicated a monument to a committee? Come on now, seriously.
Nick Nurse and company.